Hi guys, you're in chat with myself, Baja of Punjab2000.com. We've got a fantastic interview, cross fingers hopefully, lined up with an artist I've been following for a number of years. His creativity, his flair, his composition, his pieces, really intrigue me. I think he's really got, some uniqueness about him. And it's a duo production team. It is Kaos Productions, Mr. Ammo Hair.
How are you? You're right.
I was good. I thought your brother would be joining us, Ammo. We walked into the studio. He gave us a lecture, and then he walked out.
Oh, we planned it that way, but you'll get nervous. He got nervous or something. I don't know, man. But yeah, he's not well, so I'm having to talk twice as much.
See, when I looked into this more, and I think maybe other people might be the same, but I think they always assume, Ammo is Chaos Productions. Lucky your brother is, kind of is there, but it's kind of a bit more the quieter one. But before off camera, he had it going on. Can we try and get him halfway if we have a break or something?
Yeah, we'll try. But he can talk when he wants to. You get him in the mood, he'll go on and on and on.
The passion was there. Yeah. So, Ammo Hair, everyone knows you as Chaos Productions. They may not know you by name, but I've got a full list of the stuff that you've done from 2000 when I guess you could class it as became commercially acknowledged or recognised.
First sort of entering into Punjabi music was in '94.
Yeah.
With the remixes, which I know you're going to touch on, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But first entering into music in general was in 1987. That's a long time ago. And that was for my dad, and we did quite a lot of Dharmic albums. So that was really the first time I entered a recording studio environment. But yeah, my first start was John Goda, guitar player for a Bhangra band called Roshni. And it was a weird situation. We booked a recording studio to record a Dadi Jata, who was a no-show. We were paying £10 an hour, and John knew that my dad sings, and he was like, "Why don't you make a tape?" And he was like, "We don't know the first thing about it. Like, how are we going to make an album? We've never walked in.
Yeah.
Don't know this environment." So he was like, "Oh, it's easy. I'll show you how this is done." And before you know it, my dad was laying vocals down, and I think that was literally the first time I touched an electronic keyboard. Was in his studio. And he's like, "Oh, I'll load you this sound, I'll load you that sound." So we pulled it off.
And how old were you then? Let's just keep this in context. Just this is how early was talking.
That was 13 years old.
Wow, and you were straight on it with the keys.
Yeah, in them days, studios were quite different from what you see behind you. It's all simplified now with software. In those days, you had to be an expert to even find the power button, how to switch it on. There was no computers, there was no software, there was no cut and paste. Everything was done live, start to finish, recording on reel to reel. And it was, without an engineer, you'd be stuffed. We needed expertise, I think is the right word. Yeah. It was an expert environment. So it was really, looking back now, I feel so blessed to have been part of that. And in fact, so much so that I struggled to transition to this game because it's all become user friendly now. Yeah. Whereas there, it was really difficult, and that difficulty, it brings its own rewards. When you finally make a sound and it works, it makes you think, something's happened here. You get that vibe, you get that organic sound, you get that analog sound, you get that warm sound. A lot of people talk about warm sound. I think what they're talking about. It's literally something that's nice to your ears because it's recorded on tape rather than digitized. Because if you think about it, everything we do now, it's converted into ones and zeros, whereas before we were actually recording the signal as it was. So it was organic. That's what we mean people mean when they refer to a warm sound. So it's been a long journey, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you're referring to here is, just moving away from what you were doing with your father at the time in terms of the connection with the dynamic side of music and performance at the Gurdwara, etc. But we had the bands like Hira and Alap, and on their tapes you could hear what you call the organic sound, the violins, the percussion.
Yeah, everything was played live, one take. A lot of the times, I've saw a video at Dip's Bhangra studio a few weeks ago, and it was amazing because he's got it on video. Tour India Mera Yaar being recorded. There's 2 albums recorded at the same time. All the Saji sitting in the room together, working it all out, recording it all in one tape. Oh, he's made a mistake. Stop, start again. You know what I mean? That is what it used to be. Obviously, it's all on your ones now. Ek banda kari anda karta based mari ande. You know, it is changed beyond recognition. But you know, when people, I think the younger generation probably struggle to think, why are they always harping on about the past? You know, everyone says, oh, music was so great, it was so brilliant. For us, it was. It's unfortunate that everybody can't experience that. But like I said, it was a professional job run by professional people. And I was lucky enough to see that in action. And Manak, he stayed at our house as well. My dad and Manak did a lot of songs together on the same Dharmic album.
Straight up blessed there, ain't you?
Big time.
How was that as a youngster seeing Manak? I mean,
to be honest, we didn't realise.
I was going to say,
we didn't realise. We didn't really realise. We knew a singer's here who swears a lot and drinks a lot, right? But we didn't know the scope of this guy. You know, we didn't know how much of a leader and how much of a game changer he was back then. And it was just interesting because the whole band and himself used to stay at my dad's our shop. We had a shop. We had the premises house upstairs. They used to do their shows in Derby and stay the night because they knew that it was a safe environment in terms of if they've had a glass in that, they want to go somewhere where somebody's not harping on about Gana Gade, Sari guy, you know, Gala Kara and that. And he knew my dad's not being in Apollonia. He was always on that flex. So he you know, him and my dad, they struck up a good friendship, and then he brought him into doing some songs on his Dharmic albums, which looking back at it now, I wish I'd documented it. I wish I kept the vocals. I wish I'd, you know, been more part of that. Being a youth, you're just more bothered about playing with your mates and stuff. But I was still glad that was in a part of our journey, you know.
I think, you know, bringing it to date, and we're going to obviously reference everything up to now, from then to now, but I think that's set a good grounding and footing for you in terms of what you do now to date, in terms of your music and the pieces that you put in and so forth. Yeah,
like I said, just switching back to the playing tabla with my dad on stage, I always had like that groove in my head. I want to play Bhangra beats. I used to play Bhangra beats in the Gurdwara on my tabla. I used to be like, I just want to smash the tabla. I just want to make it sound really sick and really good. But that climate was different. If you were doing Dharmic stuff, you were never like free to do anything non-Dharmic, so to speak, because of the hypocrisy and the way the people would, like, you know, point fingers and whatnot. Even the Dharmic music was strictly Dharmic music. If I'd put even drums or bass or anything in a Dharmic song, you know,
it's a no-no.
Oh, definitely no. It was a different climate, so we had to make it more melodic. So our music, even Dharmic music, had to have pieces and compositions and things like that, which it led to being challenged, and it led to a learning curve, and it led to knowing how to compose songs and working it out for yourself. I know people out there think, you know, you need an ustad for everything, which is a great way of thinking, definitely. I mean, I've not really been blessed. My Chacha, he played tabla for DCS in their heyday. His name's Amos Sengera, brilliant tabla player. So that was my only sort of guidance. I had a couple of like basic lessons and Chacha, so put your hand on it like this. This is the kerda, this kerba, this is that. And the rest of it was like, oh, listen to these tapes, just play with them. You just put the tapes on, even the English stuff, put Shabba ranks on, play double R with that, you know? And that kind of grounding, even Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, the best rhythmic thing you can get, because it lasts ages, so it kills your arms, and it's always in time.
And there's some serious, like, kind of roles in there and things that you obviously, as an artist or not an artist, but someone that's learning, you've got to keep up with that.
Yeah, of course. That was what I mean. That's the grounding. That's the homework you have to do, because you can't walk into a studio and play 2 bars and loop it. There was no such thing, right?
Well, there was no such thing.
Yeah, so you had to play the whole track, which made you do your practice, do your homework, make yourself better and better, because there was no shortcuts. And in a way, that's been beneficial hugely.
Absolutely.
Hugely.
Yeah. So we spoke about you going to the studio. There's been a no-show of the people that are supposed to come there.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. So you've done that. So then what happened from there going forward? I mean, where was this all happening? Was this in the UK?
It was in Walsall. His name was John, and his studio was called JK Recording Studio, funnily enough. And it was in Walsall, and then further on, the band's lead singer, Bhangra, bought the equipment and moved it to his house, which we were still recording at. But you know, when you walk into that environment, it was like being in a space shuttle. So many switches, buttons, and you know, you don't want to step on a dial, don't want to do this, don't want to do that. Very intimidating vibe, and that's where it all went down. Manak was in that studio as well, sitting there composing a Dharmic track. I remember him writing it out. I remember him recording it, and his musicians were making. I mean, before I got involved, there was like, you know, because he used to have his band members. My dad used to use the band members as well. So seeing that level of composition was so hugely beneficial. You're literally watching pros at work. You know, they were playing live and they weren't making a single mistake. So they were banging out a full album in a couple of days. Song after song after song, composed, played. It's epic stuff, you know, really great to watch.
And just to, you know, put this into perspective, these were not like the concerts and events that we're now used to at these big venues. These were in rooms above pubs. These were community halls and venues.
Yeah. Indian Community Centre, Pakistani Community Centre. Those shows with about 10 artists from Punjab and premier artists, brilliant singers.
Sadiq.
Yeah, experts at their game. We saw so many of these guys. Sadhul Sikandar, Mohammed Sadiq. We saw Kuleep Manak. You know, we saw so many. We saw Sajid Bindra as well. Well, that was a bit when the club scene sort of kicked off. But, you know, looking back at it now, we've seen guys that are legends of the game. For, you know, it stays with you for life. It's an experience that is always going to be there. And we might not have appreciated it to that level at the time. But, you know, it can't be taken away from you. You were there watching.
So, I mean, okay, so that was the baseline where it all started from, I guess what you could call your springboard. And, you know, Larifal, you know, you grab that rope and you think, right, I'm enjoying this. You're still quite young. Yeah. So what happened next? Because we're mentioning off camera, you've been in so many different places in terms of living and your music and stuff. So I'm still intrigued as how this kind of map works out before we come back home.
Okay, the journey was like, we were strictly Dharmic. We weren't even allowed to listen to Bhangra. So I had like secret Bhangra stash of tapes with like mixtapes on TDK D90s made up, and I used to hide them in my pocket.
I thought I was alone.
No.
Okay,
With the little stickers on them and everything, right?
That's fine. Okay, I thought I was on my own on that one.
And then when Dad used to go out the car into the Gurdwara to talk to someone, I used to quickly put the tape on, have a listen to it, put it on your personal stereo, listen to it on the sly, and pick up, you know, the vibes. The vibes were electric. The vibes were. They were massive back in the days. As in, everybody was talking about this music. You know, everybody was like, "Yo, check this out. Listen to this."
So whose mixes were you listening to?
I was listening to the bands of the mid to late 80s.
So we're talking about original.
Alap, Hira.
Okay, the bands themselves. Okay.
Yeah, Alap and Hira, DCS early days. You know, those kind of music. Apna Sagi early days. Pardesi. I was listening to all of that stuff because that was what everybody was listening to. It was the in thing. You know, it's like what people are on with Drake and Rihanna now. It was the in thing for Punjabis because we had a lot of social problems back then, you know, as a community. And I think having this glue, so to speak, Punjabi Bhangra music with fusion. So it wasn't like the music of Punjab back in those days was all desi and folk and original, but it didn't have any beeline and stuff, you know. And we were like, oh, we love the bass, we love the heavy beats and stuff. And all of a sudden, this music was doing that. So, like I said, I was listening to that Chori. So we weren't allowed to make it, and we weren't allowed to listen to it. But I was doing my Dharmic production, and some of the influences start spilling over. You know, you started hearing.
You finally got that platform that you couldn't do in the Gurdwara, but you started doing it there.
You started hearing like reggae bass lines and reggae chords and stuff coming into my Dharmic stuff. My dad was like, "Oh, buddy, yeah, this sounds good," but he didn't know like.
And these are your dad's vocals on the Dharmic tracks.
He sang probably 20 odd albums.
Okay.
And there was a couple of albums with like various other singers during and after the '84 movement. Some tapes that came up in those days as well, and then sort of we just had a shop. We bought a tape shop in Derby in the late 80s. Here Music Centre back in the days. A lot of people are reconnecting now that used to come to my shop. And that brought us closer to the music, because all of a sudden you walk into your shop and everything's there, you know?
Do you remember the days when that used to happen and the artists themselves used to bring the stock in?
Yes, I do remember.
It used to happen, and I always found that quite amazing, but quite respectful. Like, these artists are so grounded to what they're doing, and so passionate about the product. They're actually bringing their own boxes of tapes.
Yeah. That was the hustle, right? That was part of the game. That was. It was a case of physically deliver your product to shops.
Yes.
It wasn't like iTunes Chardo, it goes everywhere. It was like, this is your album, you have to make CDs, you have to put the inlays in, you have to print and then you have to take it and you have to drop it off, and then you have to see how it does. And in those days, it was like product after product after product. And like I mentioned to you before, there was some good ones, some bad ones, but the good ones were exceptional in terms that they were breaking new ground musically. We were listening to stuff that blew our minds, because, you know, the Sahotas, when they came with Gidda Bao and then Sahota Beat and Ishq. What albums, who else would think of fusing that kind of music together, you know? And we literally weren't even bothered about, you know, what the singing is like, what they're saying, the words, the pitching, none of that. It was all, this beat is sick.
I mean, you mentioned so as a prime example there. In my opinion, one of the game-changing bands of that era, because you had all the other bands doing their thing, but Sohotas were kind of outside that circle, but they still kind of connected with a lot of the Asian stroke non-Asians. But their sound, what we traditionally call the signature sound, you knew a Sohotas track when you heard it, even before it sang. You knew it was there. Yeah,
it's still there. If you put up a Sohotas tape, nothing's been made since. And I don't think anything else will be made that tests that sound. And the best thing about it is what you heard on tape is what you would hear at the shows. And it's not a PA.
Always.
They're actually playing it, because the guys were playing it in the studio. The guys were playing the same stuff on stage. And it was so amazing to listen to. I used to go to gigs and I used to stand there on the balcony or somewhere, just stare at these guys and think, I can't believe that sound's coming out of these people, you know?
High five, man. I said to him before, I'm going to get really passionate about it, because I remember doing exactly the same thing. I was dancing, but when we used to dance in that ammo, when certain tracks used to come in, you didn't dance to them, you had to go and watch them. And you know what I used to do, and maybe you agree with me here, I used to reference the song in my head, what I'd been listening to in the car, and I was thinking, let's see if the percussionist or the drummer actually comes in at the same time.
Bang on. 100%.
Yeah, I think, right. And if they ever did, which would happen, if they missed a beat, you think, he missed that. Well, they might come in a bit later, and that upset you. It's like, no, it's not like the track, but then they'll sync it back in. But you, as a lover of Punjabi music, or as an artist, or as a producer, whatever you want to call yourself, now or then, but purely as a lover of music, you watch them just to see, can they really match exactly what they sound? And they did it. I don't know how they did it. As you say, they didn't have all this at that time, but they did it.
Yeah, I think how they did it was the same lads in the studios. You know, it wasn't like India Tumajwalo, get somebody else, get next man on this, get next man on that. The guys on stage were the guys that made the tapes, literally. The guys that composed the pieces, the guys that played all the breaks were the same guys on stage. So you could see why it sounds identical, literally. But the sound quality was awesome. The sound quality was sick, and the breaks were sick. And even having things like a song in one rag and a pieces in another rag, or an intro in a different rag, stuff that doesn't happen anymore, you know. And a lot of the songs were cover versions, but people here weren't familiar with those songs, or their parents were familiar from a long time ago. We were hearing these updated, refreshed versions, and they were bangers. You know, the songs were bangers, and they needed that lease of life. Those songs needed to be updated. I don't know how many, lost count how many versions of What the Judge Done we heard. But they all had a vibe. Everybody had their own stamp, and like you mentioned before, it was so unique. You know, everything was like, I can tell before you tell me who's playing, I'll tell you which band this is myself.
Without a doubt. So the sounds of Golden Star, the rawness in their musicality at the time. Golden Star up front. Those albums.
It was epic. It was just brilliant, and you can't really make somebody of the new generation experience what we experienced. Unfortunately, I'd love for everybody to be part of that. That's why we're always harping on. And people are saying, "Oh, you lot live in the '90s. You're stuck there, whatever." There's reasons for that. When you see your music on Blue Peter on Top of the Pops, and you see Gordy coming into my shop saying, yo, what's this Indian music? Yo, what's this Wham Bam? Well, who's this Bali Sagoo guy?
Yeah.
You know, when you see that level of interaction, it just went mainstream.
Yeah.
And it's not gone mainstream anymore since that time, you know. It's just shrunk. The industry shrunk. So the glory days are the glory days. It is something that we've lived through, and we're really grateful that we lived through it and experienced it closely. People have experienced it more closely than me, who was sort of part of that scene and, you know, session musicians, band members, that kind of thing. But I'm still glad, even despite being restricted to the Dharmic side, I played a good part of it. And this all happened up until '94 when we moved to Canada. That was the next big change.
What was the reason for the move to Canada? What was the reason for the move to Canada, Amo, out of interest?
It was just like, why do people come to the UK from India? It's for a better life, better living standard, that kind of thing. My dad had already gone to Canada to his niece's wedding a few years previous. And he was like, I saw a board there. Everything's massive, huge TVs, huge cars. It just looks next level. There's huge Gurdwara there, you know, the good community, whatever. Every time we used to go in the summer. So you're like, oh, the Garmi Sonia and all this, yeah. Little did we know, yeah. Little did we know what winter brings, right? We did find out though. But yeah, he got his visa, and then we all moved in about July '94, I think it was, and that was we were going from a road like Soho Road in Derby, Pear Tree Road, where our shop was, Ronak Milla all day long, people coming in and out, and people blasting them.
Are we Vancouver side or Toronto side?
We went to Toronto.
Okay.
So we went from this Ronak Milla flex, got landed in Toronto, and was like, yo, this is dead. It's all nice and tidy, but there's no vibe. There's no atmosphere, nothing. So it was like, me and my older brother, we was like, we don't like it, man, because there's no scene here. We didn't really know if there was.
We're talking musically now.
Musically, because like,
see, I'm quite surprised by that because, as you know, in the mid-90s, you know, there were a lot of Canadian DJs that were, and a lot of their imports were coming over here to the UK. I'm surprised by that.
What I'm saying is, when we were plonked from when the Bhangra industry in '94, when Sukhshinder Shinda was banging, when Jazzy B was banging, when all this was firing in the UK, they were coming in here. This industry was alight. It was alight. It was killing it all around the world. We were taken out of that and plonked into this place where we didn't discover that underground DJ scene you talk about until a bit later on, where we used to sort of go to the cassette shops, and it was like, there's loads of tapes here that are not in the UK. This remix, that remix. There was DJ Sunshine, DJ Sanjeev, and these guys were the early guys, the pioneers of that scene. And they was like, yo, they've got a scene, right? But it's all underground. You know, they're remixing everything, Bollywood stuff. They're remixing Punjabi stuff, everything. And there was a tape out called Chamkila's Revenge, DJ Sunshine.
With the red cover, as well, with the shiny gold writing, I think.
The one I saw had the white cover, but obviously the covers kept getting changed. And I was like, oh, they're actually remixing folk stuff. Like, obviously being a Galit Manak fan at that point, a hardcore fan, I was like, nobody's done a Manak one. So I was like, I'm going to do this. And
how old were you then now?
This was 20, about 19, 20
okay.
years old. So all the dynamic stuff's done, got a bit of experience. I still ain't got a studio, still ain't got a budget. It's not about how we're going to make this happen. In Canada, we had a thing which we didn't have in the UK, where you could go and hire audio equipment. You can hire anything you want. You want any mics, you want, or whatever, multi-track recorders, anything you can hire. Okay. So we block hired stuff for a month, and we put it in a basement. A basement, if you're familiar with the term, it's like it's another floor of living space under the main house. That people rent out. So we were in a basement then, which just looks like a normal house really, bar the windows in it. And then I just got to it. I was like, I want to make a remix album. And then I tied up with a Dinlaw Video. It was a sort of one of the main cassette shops in Toronto. And started digging through his crates. Like, what have you got? What's here? What can we use? And it was Galit Manak. I found a Galit Manak live tape. And I was like, oh, this sounds sick. Because there was a guy announcing him, and there was a guy telling jokes, and then he was doing his tracks and that. So I was like, yeah, I want this. I want to make a remix album with Galit Manak. And prior to that, which I've just skipped, is the Case of Bass one, which was my first outing, which was like, it started with a Khalid Manak song, and then I just did a sort of what I thought was relevant to the scene.
Was that the Heed track?
That was Sema Bari Paramani.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had some Bollywood mixes on that as well, and that Dillo Video released that, and that blew up for him. He was like, "Yo, this is sick. Do me another one. Do me another one." So we were sort of like, we're switching up a bit now. Jamkila's Revenge is sick, but where's the Manak version? So I was like, that's where the idea came from. So we made the remix, but I was like, to put a spin on it, let's do a remix like a live tape. Like, because we've got all these skits and they're just really sick. The guy was hilarious, funny comedian, and we've got these intros to these songs. Let's put it all together. So
when you're talking about this, I'm hearing the skits now. I can remember I used to play in my garage when
the little jakes and stuff,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I heard part one,
the
part two.
Playing the double and doors,
Yeah,
in the back. I remember all this.
So it was like, I want it to be a journey. I want this to be an experience rather than track 1, track 2, track 3. I just want it to just all gel and flow, and just sound like nothing that's ever come out before. And it was a difficult process. Looking at it now, you would never do what I did on that album. I didn't have any samples, so I sat there in front of the TV recording cartoons and things, putting them in this remix album, and playing my dolki on top of it and doing all kinds of stuff. I remember. And running out of channels, so grouping things, bouncing them down, and technically it was a bit of a challenge, but the end result came out, and Sabjit Soroya was the one who put it out, and Mighty Manak was born. That was where it came from, and that really, it did massive, and we didn't realise it had come out in the UK. We didn't realise that everybody was listening to it. We didn't realise that Suk at the time, True School, was vibing off that. It actually came out here a few years later. So when we came back, I was like, we came back because it didn't pan out, like socially, it was just wasn't working out. And we came back and we were just like, John Bale, look, you've got to get back on the ladder, so to speak. And I was detached from the music scene then, and in that process, these tapes came out here. The Canadian stuff got imported over. Yeah. Broadway, they used to have stalls. Yeah. And they used to sell tapes.
I remember. There was so many imported Canadian mixes. Funnily enough, when your Manak stuff started coming back out here, we started getting a lot of other Manak mixes coming out.
And it
was like, what's going on here? But obviously, people knew the original one that was yours. The Mighty Manak project.
He asked us to do Mighty Manak too, which we declined. Was sometimes you just got to leave it where you leave it, right? I'm so glad I did that. But I was detached from the scene then, and all this stuff came out here and started doing things, and it just brought a new dimension to the UK scene as well. All these, that's where remixes came. Punjabi MC was doing it, and folk music came into the UK scene as well. It became more about hardcore folk singers singing high pitch and galiyan and that kind of flex. And again, this scene's been fluid. It's kept changing. We haven't just had one sound and seen it from day one. We've started off with the sound, basic Dolki Shani type tracks with Malkeet Singh's first album, now to Gindivich. From that era to the electronic stuff with Pardesi. From that era, we've gone to the more fusion stuff with Azad, Kabaddi, the album. And then from there we've got Sakshindar Sindha with the hardcore folk Tumbi Tool stuff came in, and then the remix element came in. So it's just been it's been a journey. It's just moved from then, and this Canadian thing followed us back in a way.
It did,
when we came back, the Canadian thing came back. So it was really good for the scene. It was really good for the UK. Everybody.
Just out of curiosity, when you were doing the whole, the remixes, the Case of Bass stuff, did any of the other DJs that were doing similar things like Sunshine and connect with you? Did you chat to them? I'm just wondering.
I spoke to DJ Sunshine at a show once in Canada. We went to see We went to, we were booked out, I think, or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. But I remember speaking to him briefly then. But because like my dad was still, even with those releases, it was still like strict. It was still, oh, you can't put your names on it.
Oh.
That's why it was the Door Company and not like the Hair Brothers or something like that.
Yeah.
Because we still couldn't tell people that we did these, which a lot of people took advantage of. You know, like we did Case of Base 1, 2, 3 and stopped. Apparently they ended up in double figures.
Yes.
And even the covers didn't change after that, after part 3. Yeah,
they didn't.
That Case of Base 3 cover, we made it ourselves. We saw the sub pioneers.
Again, interesting you say that, because I realized that suddenly the sound itself wasn't the same in terms of how that signature, not signature sound, but the way it was for 1, 2, and 3. I thought 4, the quality is kind of a bit different. It sounds different.
Yeah, because it wasn't us, right?
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Well, no, I guess other people didn't know any better.
No. Brand bond, everyone wants to cash in. If these guys have disappeared, there's a void. In them days, it was quite easy for somebody else to jump on that and say, "Chala si bana dene, kadi gall hai," right? Photocopy card, look over, put some different tracks on. And I think a lot of those tracks were Geordied from other artists anyway. Nobody was actually making fresh music for that series. So that series sort of nosedived after that. Yeah. After we left it, we had to leave it because, again, we weren't supposed to put our faces to it, and people were finding out. And it was like, well, we came back to UK again. The priorities changed. It was like, just get a job, come, get us back on the property ladder here, get things rolling on that respect. So the hobby sort of took the back seat.
So what year are we talking about now when you come back?
97, 98.
Okay, so about 5-6 years later, is that right? Yeah. So you come back, you say you've kind of disconnected from the music scene. What happened then? Because at that time, music was, there was a big transition there. There was I think at that time the Bhangra garage kind of stuff was coming out to a certain degree. Punjabi music with the dance beats and everything else. So there's a lot of change, maybe not for the best, but it was again going through that change. So you obviously disconnected. You've done the whole Canadian thing. Yeah. So you're working or whatever you're doing. So what then?
Yeah, I just went back from somebody who was part of a scene to just a fan, just listening to, not following it religiously like I was all the way up at that point. It was just what happened then was True School. He contacted my brother. He became friends with him, Lucky and Suk. They used to hang out together, chill out together, and Suk was making his beats by that time. His first release came out in 2004, but he was making beats for 10 years before that. And he was showing him his beats and saying, "Yo, your brother made this, and he should get back into this and start doing things." And look, he used to tell me, and I was like, I'm really dismissive at that point. Focus badal gaya, banda khaan peen lag janda, fir dimag phir janda. You start doing different things. You start saying, "Oh, I just want to chill out with my boys, mate."
Were you demotivated maybe by the music scene? I don't know.
No. I wasn't, like, I was still at that point, had that restriction. So I was like, well, what am I going to do? Yeah. I could make more Darwin tapes, but realistically, there was no other progression available. So I just left it. I was like, let other people do it. I just want to be a listener and just let other people do it and just get on just being a normal geezer. And like Suk was very, he kept persuading. Look, he used to come around. I remember seeing him around, but I never used to chill with him. I used to say, yeah, safe, that's it. Because there's an age difference as well. So I used to hang around with Marla, and we used to just do it. And Lucky's, he sort of was more like connected with that. I even bought some gear when I came back, but I never used it. I gave it all to Lucky. And nothing really took off, nothing happened. Up until, and this is this is a long gap now, from 97, 98 up until probably 10 years after that, 2008. Word Is Born came out, and I was like, yo, this album's sick. Like, for me, that was a massive statement in the industry, because that was something badly needed at the time. Like you say, garage and all that stuff was dominating, and this thing just came out of nowhere, and just like, yo. And to top it all off, it was someone from Derby. I was like, who's done this? You know what I mean? Like, how has this come out? Because we weren't really known for a musical bande from Derby. It was all Birmingham.
Because Suki and Manny did this.
Yeah. And we were like, I was listening to it. I was like, it's sick. It's just dangerous. This is something I've never heard before. Like the sound, the vibe, the arrangements in particular. I was like, this is not your usual stuff. Before then, songs were quite formula based, generic, like, you know, they had a piece, they had a chorus, they had a piece, they had a verse, and this guy changed it all up. And I was like, then when I found out it was Sook, I was, go on, man.
Yeah.
I was like, this is really, really good. And then he went on to make 2 more albums. They smashed it as well. Yeah. And then he came back with the thing like, you should get your brother on it. You know, he's hugely into hometown stuff. You know, pro Derby, like making sure the Derby Monday are doing something and active. And he's sort of made that scene happen. Otherwise, there was no scene in Derby at all. So he started throwing me vocals and saying, "Oh, here, Kulvinder Jol's here." And when he'd done Chittiyan and various other songs with him, and he goes, "Look, try and do something with it." And I was like, "It's alien to me. I don't know how to make music nowadays. I'm used to the old way, you know, having an engineer there, playing your tabla A to Z, playing your pieces. I'm used to that. And this is not that. It was very alien to me. So I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to do this."
Bearing in mind, you've been at the music game for a bit as well, right?
It was probably just as like, we're talking 10 years nearly.
Yeah.
So he pushed and pushed. I sat in with him, watched him work and stuff, and I didn't know what MIDI was. I didn't know how to do certain things, and he was like, you know, you'll pick it up. It's really easy. Blah blah blah. Just put some vibes down, make it happen. And slowly but surely, he pulled me back into the scene after that long gap. And to be honest, since then it's just gone. You know, we gave birth to this new vibe. Kaos Productions. Well, I mean, personally, I'm never have been egocentric and attached to a name. I'm not bothered about that. It's just everything needs to be called something.
Yeah, understand.
So we just named it that to say, right, we're going to work under this banner, and then started doing music, and you know, we've got to this point now, which again, if you look at the scale of things and look at the music industry as a whole, I don't see us anywhere near the top of anything, and to be honest, I don't want to be, because it just adds more pressure. You know, it puts more expectation on your head. But it's been nice to turn a hobby into a job, especially in a climate that sales have gone down, piracy took over. A lot of very talented artists in the UK stopped making music. Probably for those reasons. Yeah.
Can I just say, in my opinion, you say it's a job, but for me, I see this is your career.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'd say, yeah, I think job, it is a career. But it came so late in the game, you know, after I'd worked various factories and forklift driving and all kinds of other stuff and making music in the early days. For this to turn into a full-time thing was quite a huge deal, as it is. And again, the scene's volatile, so who knows what tomorrow's going to bring. But to this moment, it's been such a roller coaster, up and down ride. And finally, my dad chilled out and said, "Look, right,
look how late,
right? You know, finally." And it sort of came in line with the fact that the scene's just turned on its head, and it's so difficult, and it's all about branding and marketing and videos and YouTube hits. And now he's like, "Oh, Carlo, talent." And my younger brother has got older, and he started getting into the...
Oh, okay, it's okay now.
Yeah, and he started getting into the technical side of it, because after me, he did a stint with my dad as well, playing tabla on stage. And then he started, he was more into the engineering side of it, you know, the making it sound good.
Oh, okay.
Which is also, a lot of people don't realise the importance of that, because something's only going to sound good on the dance floor if it's been engineered well. Technical stuff that I was like always put off by. I'm the guy that just puts the ideas down and says, "Oh, chords this, piece that, make this that."
Which, in my opinion, correct me from it, is the definition of a producer. Yeah. You produce the idea.
Yeah. And in that setup, in the mainstream setup, there's a team. The producer says, "Oh, let's put this sound here, let's put that sound there." What the engineer and it's his job to make it boom, boom, boom. Then they have mastering engineers, then they have musicians that come in and play those parts. It's a whole thing, and we're sort of condensed all those jobs into a role of 2 people.
I think I have to be quite honest here, Amo. We need to credit your dad, because, we have my daddy, it does he, you know, we're trying to make tracks and that. Yeah. But I think he's actually indirectly had quite a lot of positive influence in your existence in terms of, you know, your position in the music scene, because he was there from day dot. Yeah. So let's credit your dad. You know, what's his name?
Balwant Singh. He was known early on as Balwant Singh Litana, Pend Litana, Nene Kudur. And then he became Balwan Singh Darby Wala. I don't think Leicester are sticking at the moment. So people still call him Balwan Singh Darby Wala. But yeah, I 100% agree with that. I wouldn't have touched the tabla if it wasn't for him. And got into the scene. Even though he put this burden of restriction on us, we found our way into the game somehow after a lengthy period of time. But I think that was the journey. That was how it was going to happen. And the learning curve, it was very long and steady. But it puts us in a position where at least we can say we know what we're talking about in musical terms. There's a whole other world that we've had to learn about from scratch, which is how to try and get attention, because it's become a popularity contest.
So we're talking here social media, marketing, getting your name out there.
Yeah, I mean, it was enough to do, like we said earlier, it was enough to do a good song before. People would find it, people would vibe to it, people would support it. I don't think that's the case anymore, because it's the delivery. You have to get it. You have to also get it to people, to make people listen to it, and you have to make it look good as well as sound good, which is, again, it's been so alien to us. We're not naturally front of camera people. It's not our place to be, so to speak. There's performers and there's behind the camera people. We are, in the shadows. This is our place, what you're seeing here. It's been difficult to transition from that and try and, tell people what you're doing, to try and make people aware that this is my music without making it sound like you're giving it large. I think that's a big part of it. Is it's easy to fall into the ego trap and say, "Man, artist bन गया यार, मैं तो इतने view हो गए, इतने followed हो गए." But none of that for me is real. In the sense that it could just switch off overnight. Anything could happen. You have to take it with a pinch of salt when people message you and say, smashed it, this is sick, blah, blah. It's really good to have the appreciation, because otherwise we've got no fuel. There's no way we can go back in the studio the next day and make something better if people don't respond to the first thing that we've made. And that helps us. But at the same time, we have to keep a shield up and say, don't get complacent, and don't let it get to your head that I actually did something here, because music is disposable. It is.
And you can actually use that to motivate yourself, right? What we're going to do, let's now step it up now and let's do it more. Because if you reach that standard as an artist, no matter what you do, I'm not just talking about music here, I'm talking about anything you do live. If you achieve that goal, then you, like you say, you shouldn't get complacent. Oh my God, check me, self-bomb, You should use that as like, what? I'm going to do better next time. I'm going to do something even better. But I think, you guys doing that. I mean, I'm just looking at the list of artists that you've had the opportunity to work with, you got Team Minder, you got Govinda Jal, you've even got Balid Malwa. I never saw that one coming. Yeah. So that was an interesting kind of, link there. You had a selection of artists that you've recorded alongside in terms of production. Manak as well, and let's not forget the man himself, Mr. Gurj Sidhu. Yeah, keeping it local again.
Yeah, Leamington boy, man. He's not far away from us. He's got his own studio set up now, so we don't really link up that much, but he used to be here all the time. Bella, we used to vibe together and just make, and we still do. When a song's born, it doesn't just happen. What you hear, you think, well, there's those chords, we've just put those chords on, there's probably 10 versions that got scrapped before that, which is the process of that track, which I think people do need to see, and this is why I'm sort of going back to the social media thing, where I'm going to start highlighting a bit of that. There's like so many mistakes made, so many things gone wrong, so many things that haven't hit the mark before we get that final version. And that's a journey, individual journey within a journey. That's our journey plus the journey of the song that we're working on. And we don't just get a few beats and slap a vocal on them. It's not that simple. The stuff has to gel, it has to vibe. And with Gurj, he brings a lot in himself. He brings a lot of ideas and a lot of vibes in. With his background, the Dadi background, the folk singing, like we mentioned before.
Your dad must have loved that. I'm sure if did he hear him? Did he have any opinions on that?
He knew, because Gurj was in a Dadi Jatha with his dad and his daya. So obviously the Dharmic circle's quite a local thing. So he knew about them. He's met his dad and his daya.
Isn't it amazing how these things all connect?
Yeah. That's what makes it a small world, right? You always look at it and you think, wow, after so much time, you think it's just gone full circle. But he's had a massive year last year, really big, and he's going to build on that. And what's happened with him is he's come up in a scene which has been on the decline for a long time. People haven't had much to talk about outside of JK, UK born especially. And so hopefully that'll motivate other youngsters to get involved, because really the old guys have done their bit, and we had a massive gap in the middle where other areas took over. And now we need that fuel again. We need those guys to get involved. We need the young kids on it. We need them to learn Punjabi, pronounce it properly, sing, learn how to sing, and just come through. We need that.
Yeah. The guy's gone international.
Yeah, yes. He's been, I think, like, he's had a like the whole iceberg thing where you only see what's at the top of the water. He's had a long journey before that, a good 10 years he's put into this game as well. Look, people only notice when somebody's blowing up. But whatever. Nazari, you mentioned, man, that's still one of my favourite songs. Track for me it's underrated in terms of people don't know about it, but it's got played on EastEnders several times, in that market scene,
remember,
and it's been picked up in Hollywood on a production which I'm not too sure about the details, but as like a soundtrack element for one of the productions over there as well. The track is one of my personal favourite productions because it reflects my vibe a lot more. Like, along with the Bhangra, I used to listen to a lot of reggae music, a lot of ragga music, dancehall. Back in the days, we're talking about Shabba Ranks, Pooja Banton, those kind of Ninja Man, those kind of artists. And that whole vibe in that song is everything that I do. So if there was ever a Kaos track, there's two tracks that I've done that represent that to the fullest. It's that one and Sani Sindh's Mundra, which is all sort of my vibe, my thing. This is me. This is my music. So it's always going to be very special.
Yeah,
to
they
me.
don't compare to you, because if there was like a definition of a track to represent you,
it's easy to get swayed by public response to say Bala Jalniani, and you start not disliking your own work. But there's none of that with those songs, because I wouldn't do them any differently. It's just they came out at a time where he was just starting out and growing as an artist, put his first step in the game after the earlier work he did. And from then to now, I'm pretty sure if that song came out now, it would do something different. Obviously, videos, visuals, and online PR and all that business that comes with the package now. But it's always going to be one of them that, like, I always go back to. It's always been in my goodie ever since it came out. So hopefully some other people out there are feeling it as well.
Yeah, definitely. No, 100%. I mean, when that track first came out, I was like, Ammo's sealed his stamp on this one. I can tell the flavour of this, but Gurge is really, like, taking it to the brink with it. The way he, did the performance of it, the way he sang it, the way it was delivered. There's a lot of kind of throwback to the Manak style as well. I completely, love the rawness on that, vocal.
It's been quite easy to work with a vocalist like Gurge because he knows singing. He's been singing for a lot of years. He had the Dharmuk background with the Dadi Jatha, like I said before, and he'll know where he's wrong and where he's right, and how to change his tone and how to add elements in, and so he's doing a lot of the work that sometimes doesn't get done at all because of lack of knowledge or whatever it is. So it's been really easy to work with him, and the other thing I would say about him is he's been the most open-minded singer I've worked with. Like we did Deep Obsession, the drum and bass tune earlier on in 2017. Any other singer wouldn't take that risk, especially putting a big budget video behind it. And then we switched it up to, from the reggae vibes to the Pata Lagju vibe, with that kind of sort of modern element. And then the stuff we had on the album with Merja with Kabbi Khan, and there was loads of vibes, loads of flavours. And sometimes in this day and age, it's hard to take a risk. I wouldn't say people don't take a risk, so everything sounds boring. It's easy to make that statement, but you've got to ask yourself why. It's because the money invested in these products is a huge risk. Now, who's got money to throw away? You know, you're not going to get your money back if your song doesn't get popular.
Comes back to the whole issue what you mentioned about the complacency thing. So you're thinking outside the box.
Well, we're trying to. I'm trying to go for that thing that, you know, like most producers have a developed signature sound. So you're going to go to this producer, you're going to get this sound, and that producer, that sound. I wanted to sort of bring an element of we can work with a singer and give birth to something different each and every time. So I think hopefully that, you know, the stuff we've done has showcased a variety of styles and vibes and stuff like that. And I don't know if it's been detrimental or positive to not have a signature, so to speak, but there is one hiding in the background, like I mentioned. And if we ever do a Kaos album, I say if, I don't know, because it's just financially, it's not viable for a producer-led album anymore. Then you would hear more of that style, because that's really what we are.
But I think looking just at the tracks that you've produced and worked on shows that such variation. You got the tracks with the B line, the drum and bass vibe, the folk sound, the dol, the tumbi, the harmonium. So the full selection's there. Certain producers will probably, you could look at the guy, I don't know what that sound is, but that's my personal opinion. So you've gone above and beyond.
That's the benefit, I suppose, of having all that long history in that background in the recording studios and learning instruments, or picking up instruments and improvising, which I think I have done, especially with the mandolin. People know me as a mandolin player, which I'll never call myself, because it's really hard to be, be good on certain instruments, and that's a really hard instrument to play. You have to spend years and years and years practicing and perfecting your art before you can be considered as a mandolin player. I've just improvised. We've got by, and we've done it to a decent enough level where we could go and record on Diljit Dosanjh's album, which is a massive experience for me. That was when Suk was like, "You got to play on this." I was like, "Serious, man?" I like, you know how big this album is, and you look at it and you think, he's got me in the studio, and I best not make mistakes. I best make it, as good as I can. So along the lines of producing, I've also been a session musician on his stuff, strictly only, like we only work with each other. And he's played dol and harmonium and stuff on my recordings, which again, it adds a sort of networking side to it, where you're not just restricted to your own little studio, own little bedroom. You're vibing with other people, you're exchanging ideas, you're passing knowledge onto each other. I think that's been special, and that's kept it going. Without that, you start probably making music that just sounds stupid, So it's really good to have other people. And the main thing is to have constructive feedback,
Yeah.
It's easy for people to say, yo, you smashed it, man, that's sick, that is. But it's really hard to say, I'm not feeling that, or that sounds whack, or, to be honest, it's difficult, because you don't want to put a dampener on somebody's hard work or whatever it is. But the value of having people like True School around, or he's not going to mess around when it comes to that. He's going to say it how it is. And sometimes that it's a reality check you need. And I think a lot of people need that. A lot of people don't get it. I'm lucky that we get that.
And I would also say, it's easy for not necessarily other producers like True School or anybody else in the game, but also fans, if they want to say something, not be negative or detrimental about a track, they could easily put it in context and say, probably not the best in terms of what you've done before. However, maybe going forwards, do this, that's constructive. It's easy for them to just put it down and just slam it.
Constructive criticism is a term that is used a lot, but you can only be constructive if you know about the subject in hand, in my opinion. Like, okay, being a fan of something and having your opinion is very important and very good to hear from people, but if somebody just says this ain't right when technically it is right, or there's so many grey areas, there's so many reading between the lines kind of thing. You've done something with something in mind, and somebody's come along and slammed it because they don't like the single, or they don't like the video, or especially when it comes to that, because videos influence your music to that level that they can make or break your song. You can have a fantastic song with a really bad video, and your song will flop, because people see the video when they're hitting your song, whether they're driving in the car, whether they're at night or whatever. Even when you're not watching it, as soon as you hear a song and you've seen the video for it, you're attaching those visuals to that sound. And if they're not adequate, if they're terrible, that's what your song becomes. It's the power of the visual side of it, which it's a difficult game now, because not only a music producer has to do their job, the video guy has to do an equal, if not take your song to another level job, which means you need to be on a creative wavelength, which is a very difficult thing to crack and to get right.
Take us back to the early 90s when there were no videos and everything was based on, everything that was played out on the radio or when you went to shops, say, can you just play me that? Bang, you'd make a judgment on what you heard and not what you saw.
All we needed to sell a track was a poster in our shop window. People knew it was out, they'd come in, play that.
Yeah.
We play it, that's banging, I love it.
Yeah.
You're not waiting for YouTube, you're not waiting for 10 million views in 2 hours, you're not waiting for any ridiculous figures or where it's being played or what chart or how it's charted. If you know it's sick, standing in my shop, I had so many people, that's bang on, man. They'll take it.
That's it, simple.
And not only take it, they will get some life out of it. They'll rinse it, they'll play it to their mates. Mates will probably nick it and they'll come back and buy another one the next day. That culture, that vibe is a bit lost because of the visual side. It's overbearing on the music. You can't, ultimately it's just a song. It's not supposed to be a film. It's not supposed to have actors in it. It's a music. You've made a song. And very rarely can people be impartial when you're watching a video just to the music, unless you just don't watch it.
Don't watch it.
Yeah, I've got a lot of mates that say, we like listening to the music, but we don't like watching it.
Yeah.
And rightly so. I mean, I'm like that myself.
I think that's constructive. Yeah, fair play. That's a constructive, criticism. But it's like, there'll be people that, say it the other way, but not actually listen to the track really and appreciate it, just base it on the visuals. But that's just where we live in now in terms of digital media. Here now, 2018, everything's good as can be in the given world. Lucky still hasn't turned up, so yeah, he's done. Yeah. Next time, yeah. What next for Kaos Productions before we wrap up?
Okay, 2018, we're going to try and have a good year like we do every year. We're just going to carry on going forward, making more music, working with Gurj Sidhu on his album. He's announced an album for the summer. We've got Chaos Was the Case Part 2 coming, which is a remix album, but not, so to speak. It's not like we've put 2 songs together. There's fresh production. We like the first one was. Unfortunately, that release is restricted to the UK because of copyright issues with the original songs. But I think I want to put a brand new song on there as well, just to do something different. And there's an artist from the States, G Sidhu, who's I really like his vibe. He's a brilliant artist. I'm doing a track with him, at least one. And then hopefully something Chaos related. Everybody's been saying do your album, and I'd said last year I'll do my album, but I haven't started it, I'll be honest, man, because we've just been busy with so many other things. So we're just going to keep it fluid and just keep doing what comes on your table and you find interesting. Just go with it. Otherwise, they'll only but nothing. I like this song. I want to make it a certain way. That's the kind of project I will go for. I won't be like Inija the best and then whatever. It's always going to be based on what I can bring and add to that project and make it good. So who knows what's going to come across into our studio this year and where it's going to take us. Maybe Punjab for a change. Maybe we'll break through there. Maybe the States, maybe Canada. It's been a good journey. It's been a long journey. I'm very happy with the way people have responded and they followed us on social media, liked, shared that stuff. Hopefully that will continue and support the scene in general, man. It's not just all about us, right? It takes up so many artists to make a scene.
Of course.
So like if it's good music, then just buy it.
Yeah, buy it, share it, and put it out there.
That's what we used to do. We used to go and buy a tape, like you used to do. We all did.
Yeah. I used to spend most of my life in tape shops.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I used to ask, our late Tony's, Pablo, when's the next delivery coming in? What time is it delivering? Will it be here? And I remember the phone call. He's coming. We're on our way. Yeah. Those vibes take me back as well. We remember we used to have people coming in late on a Friday after closing time. Friday evening. Even after closing time. Oh, where's this tape? It's out. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Just hold it. Hold the shutters up. Yeah.
So that vibe. Let's try and bring it back. It's brilliant. It's something for all us to relate to. Everybody to unify with music is very powerful. And we shouldn't be like, everybody shouldn't be in their own separate lanes. We should all sort of come together. Even the audience should come together and sort of supporting. Hopefully we'll get some of that vibe back. That'll be brilliant for everybody. So big up to you guys, man. Thanks for giving us the time.
Yeah, no, likewise.
And hopefully...
Thanks, Lucky.
Hopefully we'll stay in touch. Next time I'll make him do all of this. He's made me work hard today.
Yeah, you know it's not going to happen. Amma, any final words to the Punjab 2000 crew?
Big up, man. You guys have been supporting for a long time. I'm not just saying that because I'm being interviewed by you guys. Like, I read social media. I see what you guys are always supporting music in general, albeit it doesn't matter who's released it. It's always a good positive thing to see that there's some sort of support mechanism for us guys, for artists, which we need, which everybody needs, and the whole industry needs it. So yeah, sick, brilliant. Thank you very much for supporting us, and hopefully more of that in the future.
Okay. Respect, Amma. Appreciate the time, and thank you very much. Punjab2000.com exclusive video interview. I say first time ever because you never do these. Yeah, I know you're doing it. So Punjab2000 exclusive video interview with one half, because the other half has ran off and blamed the flu. Man flu. This is lying. Ammo here in the place. Chaos Productions. Peace.